down the final stretch. The grandstand shook. The boy they all forgot was thundering toward a miracle. Cenicienta's hoofbeats punched the dirt as she pulled past the leader. Jacob raised both arms, crossing the beam 4 lengths clear. A roar erupted, then choked into silence as recognition spread.
That mare, that's the cripple from the auction.
The same men who had mocked a barefoot child now sat frozen, mouths open, mouths open. The finish line camera captured Jacob's face, sweat, tears, and a defiance earned over 3 winters. How did a boy who traded his last blanket for a lame horse become a state champion? The answer begins 3 years earlier, in a sun-baked auction barn where hope was measured in pennies, and where a fold of gray wool and 3 worn coins would buy a future no one saw coming. 3 years earlier, the same Texas heat baked a different arena, a ramshackle auction barn where fortunes were decided in seconds. A 10-year-old boy edged inside, bare feet silent on the dirt, clutching a folded gray blanket and 3 coins. In a back pen, a chestnut mare stood head low, favoring a front leg, her dull coat telling a story no one cared to read. Her eye held a weariness that had given up long before, yet deep within it, a flicker of defiance refused to die.
Lot 43, chestnut mare, 5-year-old, chronic limp, not a stitch of paper. Who'll give me a starting bid?
The well-heeled buyers in crisp Stetsons didn't bother to look. A lame horse was just a wallet drain.
Please, sir. I want the mare. I'll take her. She needs someone.
You? With what? That blanket? You think this is a petting zoo?
It's all we have. The last warm thing. And $3. Please, sir.
Ha! Not near enough. Real buyers are waiting. I ain't running a charity.
Please, sir. It's the last warm thing we own. Every cent I earned.
Sold. For the blanket and $3. But don't come crying when she dies.
The gavel fell. Lot 43 belonged to a barefoot boy with a wool blanket and a pocket full of dreams. Jacob led the limping mare through the jeering crowd, her head low, his chin high. A man in a tailored Stetson scoffed. "You'll be eating that horse come winter." Jacob didn't turn. His hand tightened on the lead rope, his jaw set. The mare stumbled behind him, her gait uneven on the sun-cracked earth. 5 miles home, to a house with no blanket. 5 miles to an impossible future. The boy walked on, carrying only a frayed rope and a stubborn hope. And so, with every penny gone and the night coming on, Jacob Mitchell walked into a story no one believed could happen. The adobe hut squatted low against the dusk. Rosa stepped into the doorway and stopped, her face pale.
Jacob, Casey stay? Where did you get a horse? Did you steal it?
No, Mama. I bought her at the auction. She was all alone. Nobody else wanted her.
Rosa's gaze swept the tiny room. The bare bed, the empty shelf where the gray blanket had been folded.
You gave away our last warm thing. And for a horse that can't even walk right.
She'll get better, Mama. I know it. And you still have me. I'll never leave you cold.
Eres igual que tu papá. Stubborn, with a heart too big for this world.
That night, Jacob wrapped himself in an old burlap sack and slipped into the stall beside the mare.
I'll take care of you, Cenicienta. I promise. Just don't give up on me.
Outside, the Texas night grew cold. Inside the stall, 2 forgotten souls began to find warmth in each other. Dawn spilled through the stall slats, and Jacob knelt beside the mare, running his hand down her swollen fetlock.
It's not the bone, it's the angle. If I could just lift this side.
He remembered the old trunk in the corner, a cracked leather saddle pad his father had used for years.
Papa always said leather remembers where it ought to bend. Maybe it can teach her hoof to walk straight.
He cut a strip with trembling hands, folded it, and slid it under the mare's left front hoof. Cenicienta flinched and pulled back, but Jacob whispered steady reassurances until she settled.
Easy, girl. Easy. I am not going to hurt you. This is to help you run again.
He led her out into the pale morning. Step by step, the limp that had defined her began to fade.
That's it, Cenicienta. You are not broken. You are just a little uneven, like me.
From the doorway, Rosa watched in silence, her worn hands gripping the frame, not yet believing but afraid to hope. Weeks blurred into months. Each dawn, Jacob tightened the leather pad and swung onto Cenicienta's bare back. A frayed rope looped around her neck.
Faster, girl. Nobody's watching but the sun. Let's show them what we are.
The mare's coat began to gleam, her muscles hardening under his constant care. She no longer stumbled, she strode. A neighbor leaned on the fence post and shouted, "That lame nag ain't ever gonna amount to nothing, boy."
Let them talk. The only voice that matters is hers.
Rosa stood at the fence line more and more, her hands unclenching, her lips parting as the horse glided past.
Mijo, come eat. You can't outrun an empty belly.
Thanks, Mama. Just one more lap. She's almost there.
That night, in the stall, Cenicienta nuzzled Jacob's hair as he slept, the leather pads still in place, a promise kept. Word of a trail race drifted through town. Jacob pinned the flyer to the barn wall with a rusty nail. At the start line, dust and laughter mixed. A dozen kids on store-bought ponies glanced at the barefoot boy with the limping mare. The starter pistol cracked. Cenicienta stumbled as the pack bolted, but Jacob leaned in and whispered, "Steady." She found her rhythm in the trees, her hoofbeats a steady drum, eating the trail.
Come on, girl. Show them what a cripple can do.
They crossed the rope line third, mud spattered and heaving. Jacob slid off and pressed his forehead to her sweaty neck.
Third place, girl. They saw us today. Next time, first.
You did it, Mijo. You really did it.
A kid shouted, "Lucky run, blanket boy." But Jacob just tightened the rope and walked on.
They can say what they want. A third-place cripple is still a contender.
That night, a third-place ribbon hung beside the empty shelf where the blanket once sat, a space waiting to be filled. 2 summers later, the county fair banner cracked in the hot wind. Jacob, now 12, stood taller, but still barefoot.
Remember that third-place ribbon, girl? Today, we're trading it for blue.
At the crack of the starter's pistol, Cenicienta burst forward, the leather pad holding true, her stride now a weapon.
Now, girl, now. Leave them nothing.
They crossed the beam a nose ahead, the crowd roaring, a pocket of sound that drowned every old sneer.
Blue, girl. I told you.
Rosa wept openly, pressing her hands together as if in prayer. The local paper sent a photographer. The shutter clicked on a boy and his once lame mare, a picture that would run in the next day's edition. In the stands, a few onlookers glanced at the familiar mare and frowned, but the boy just smiled. The next morning, the picture hung in the Adobe's front window, a bold whisper that the impossible could be beaten. The regional track buzzed with heavier crowds and clicking cameras. Jacob, 13 now, led Cenicienta into the paddock, her coat gleaming.
No more third place. No more county. Today, we run for the state.
The starter's signal sent them flying. Cenicienta took the lead on the backstretch and never gave it back, the leather pad doing its quiet work.
Go, girl. Go.
2 lengths clear at the wire. The announcer's voice cracked over the speakers. Folks, you've just seen the youngest regional champion in recorded history. In the winner's circle, Rosa clutched Jacob so hard he laughed, tears cutting through the dust on her cheeks. The press rushed forward, microphones thrust at a boy who couldn't stop smiling, his bare feet still dusty. But later that night, in the Adobe's dim kitchen, Rosa emptied her coin purse onto the scratched table. She counted the pennies 3 times and winced. The state championship entry fee was a fortune they didn't have. The wind felt like a door opening onto a cliff. Jacob leaned in the doorway, watching her. His hand tightened around the newspaper clipping in his pocket. A week later, a long black car crunched to a stop in front of the Adobe. A man in polished boots stepped out, his smile too wide. He eyed the mare in the corral and said, "I'll give you $5,000 for her, cash today."
She's not for sale. Not for any money.
The man laughed, a dry scrape. "5,000, boy. You are sleeping in a barn. Your mother's scrubbing floors. Don't be stupid."
Then I am stupid. She trusts me. You can't buy that.
Rosa stepped out, wiping her hands on her apron. The man turned to her, spreading his hands. He said, "Ma'am, be reasonable. That horse could buy you a real house, a warm bed."
We have a home. My boy made a choice. You go.
The man's smile tightened. He flicked a business card onto the dirt and drove away, dust rising behind him. That evening, Jacob spread the state championship entry form on the kitchen table. A coffee can of coins sat beside it. The next morning, Rosa slipped a plain envelope onto the kitchen table. No return address, no stamp, just Jacob's name typed crookedly. This horse is stolen property. Return her immediately or face legal consequences. You have been warned.
Stolen? I bought her fair. Who would send this?
His hands trembled as he stared out the window at the corral. The mare's silhouette calm against the morning. Rosa found it later, the paper crumpled in his pocket. She smoothed it on the table, her breath shallow.
Mijo, what is this? Tell me, it's a lie.
Tears carved tracks down her dust-streaked face. The danger had just become something darker than poverty.
I won't let them take her. She's ours. I don't care what that paper says.
That evening, he signed the state championship entry with a steady hand. The coffee can of coins still stood beside it. He pressed his forehead to Cenicienta's neck in the stall. Her warmth, the only answer he needed. In the week before the state championship, Jacob woke each morning before the sun, pulling on boots he'd outgrown.
Faster. Girl, every stride is one closer to proving she's ours.
After every run, he knelt and inspected the leather strip, testing each fold with trembling fingers.
If the pad fails, everything falls apart. But it won't. Papa's leather never broke.
At night, he spread his blanket in the stall, the mare's breathing a steady rhythm that let him close his eyes.
Be careful, mijo. This race, it feels like a battlefield.
No battlefield, Mama. Just a finish line. And we're going to cross it first.
The night before the race, he sat in the stall for hours, whispering the story of their journey into Cenicienta's ear.
Tomorrow, the world will see. Not a cripple, not a stolen horse. Just us.
He fell asleep with his hand on her neck, the leather pad beside him, ready for dawn. On race morning, Jacob brushed Cenicienta until her chestnut coat gleamed like dark copper in the early light.
Look at you, girl. They called you a cripple. Today they'll call you a champion.
One last time, he knelt and checked the leather pad. It held, molded to her hoof like a second skin.
Papa's leather, your trust, my promise. It's all here.
When they pulled up to the Grand State track, the dirt lot was already packed with polished trailers and prancing thoroughbreds. Professional jockeys in racing silks strutted past, their horses like carved statues beside the dusty little mare. High in the grandstand, the old auctioneer George sat, his straw hat pulled low, half smirk from 3 years ago flickering.
I see you up there. You laughed first. Laugh now.
He tightened his grip on the lead, nudging Cenicienta toward the starting gate. His heart hammered, but his hands were steady. The world narrowed to a dirt track and a girl who once couldn't walk straight. Jacob's hand rested on Cenicienta's warm neck as his eyes found George in the stands, the same smirk still there.
3 years, and you still think I am a joke. Let's see who laughs when this is over.
In a cluster of tailored Stetsons, the same wealthy buyers who had laughed at the auction now whispered behind cupped hands.
They haven't changed. But I have. And she has.
He drew a long breath, leather reins cutting into his palms, the roar of the crowd fading to a hum. All around him, thoroughbreds snorted and stamped, their riders sleek in silk, but Jacob only saw the track ahead.
Ready. Cenicienta, it's just you and me and a line of dirt.
Above the track, the announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, they are approaching the gate. A wave of sound rose from the stands, but Jacob heard only the steady thump of his own heart. As the gatekeeper raised his flag, time stretched thin. The gate crashed open, and the horses exploded forward in a roar of dust and pounding hooves. Cenicienta slotted into 7th, hemmed in by a wall of lathered horseflesh and flying sand. Sand peppered Jacob's face as the crowd became a muffled roar, his world shrinking to the space between galloping bodies.
Hold, girl. Wait for it. The gap will come.
A bay colt on the rail drifted wide, and a seam of daylight opened.
Go, Cenicienta, go.
She plunged into the gap, the leather pad biting but secure as they surged past 2 horses, then a third. The rail became a sling, and Jacob felt the fire of a horse who finally had room to run. They crossed into 3rd place as the backstretch loomed, the leaders now in sight.
3rd. Not bad for a cripple. Huh, girl? Now let's catch them.
Into the final turn, Cenicienta's stride lengthened, her ears flat, her breath a rhythmic roar as she closed on the leader.
There he is. The horse everyone bet on. Let's see how he likes getting passed by a cripple.
With a surge, Cenicienta drew even, then edged ahead, the leather pad holding as Jacob crouched low. The finish line beam sliced the air. Jacob saw nothing but the wire, heard nothing but the beat of her hooves. A camera flash froze the moment. Jacob, arms raised, tears and dust streaking his cheeks, Cenicienta's chestnut coat blazing. The grandstand erupted, but the roar curdled into a strange hush as people began to recognize the boy and his mare.
That's the Blanket Kid, and that's the cripple mare. I sold her for $3. How?
In the premium section, the Stetson crowd sat motionless. Their earlier laughter turned to ash in their mouths. The announcer's voice boomed. Jacob Mitchell, on a horse they said couldn't run, wins the state championship by 4 lengths.
We did it, girl. A blanket, $3, and a heart too stubborn to quit.
In the winner's circle, Jacob raised the state championship trophy high, tears cutting clean tracks through the grime on his cheeks. Rosa burst through the crowd and wrapped her arms around him, sobbing into his shoulder as the cameras flashed.
Mi hijo, you did it. The whole world saw what I always knew.
We paid for this with a blanket, Mama. A blanket and $3.
Excuse me, son. Standard procedure. We need to scan your horse for official identification.
Sure, go ahead. She's got nothing to hide.
Dr. Elena pulled out a handheld scanner. It screened dark and moved it towards Cenicienta's neck. Jacob watched her run the wand in a slow arc, smiling faintly, still riding the high of the wind. The crowd noise faded as the scanner emitted a sharp electronic beep.
That's odd. This horse is chipped. She has a registration number. Estrella de Plata. Registered to Victor Herrera. Reported stolen 6 years ago. This mare is a missing thoroughbred.
Stolen? But I bought her fair 3 years ago. She was at an auction.
There's a standing reward for her return. $50,000. This has to be reported.
Rosa's eyes went wide, her hand flying to her mouth. The word 50,000 hung in the air like a prayer she was scared to believe. An event official jogged away, reaching for a radio. The news was already spreading, slipping through the crowd like a cold draft.
No, she can't be stolen. She's Cenicienta. She's mine. I slept in her stall. I fixed her hoof.
I understand, son, but the law says she belongs to her registered owner. The breeder will be contacted.
In that moment, the trophy in Jacob's hand felt like a stone. The biggest prize of his life just became a possible goodbye. Victor Herrera was a name none of them knew, but in a few hours, a phone would ring in a luxury stable, and the legendary breeder would hear a story he never expected. And the state champion, the boy who sold his last blanket, could only wait and wonder if he was about to lose everything he had fought for. A black limousine rolled to a stop in front of the adobe, dust swirling in the last light of evening. Victor Herrera stepped out, a distinguished man in his 60s, graying hair, his tailored jacket stark against the poverty around him.
Is that her? Estrella de Plata? After 6 years.
He knelt beside the mare, his hands trembling as they touched her muzzle, and the tears came without shame.
My beautiful girl. I thought you were gone forever.
She's all I have, sir. She's my best friend. Please, please don't take her away.
Victor lifted his gaze, seeing the boy for the first time, barefoot, worn, with desperate eyes that had known too much loss.
Tell me everything. How did a boy like you end up with a stolen champion?
So Jacob told him. The auction, the blanket, the leather patch, the 3 winters sleeping in the stall. Rosa stood beside him, her hand tight on his shoulder. When the boy finished, Victor was silent for a long moment, his gaze moving from the horse to the boy and back again.
She's yours. I won't take her from the boy who saved her.
He reached into his jacket and pulled out a check, pressing it into Rosa's trembling hands.
And I honor my reward, $50,000. Use it well.
Rosa stared at the number, her lips forming a silent prayer. Jacob grabbed the mare's neck and broke down.
And one more thing. Her first 3 foals will be yours. Estrella's legacy deserves to run with you.
You mean it? She's mine, and 3 foals? I can't believe this.
I mean it. You gave her a second life, son. That's worth more than any pedigree.
Jacob took the hand, his own still trembling, and shook it as if sealing a sacred pact. Rosa clutched the check to her chest, her body shaking with sobs that had been held back for years. The boy who sold his last blanket for a lame horse had become a state champion, a friend to $1 million mayor, and the son of a debt-free woman. Rosa paid off every debt, her smile bright as the new sun. The adobe windows gleamed with fresh glass, and the roof held back the rain. Jacob hammered the first nail of a new barn, Cenicienta watching from the pasture.
Now you'll have a real stall girl. No more sleeping in the mud.
Spring came, and her belly rounded with her first foal, coat shining under the Texas sky.
All those nights in the stall, and now we're getting a family.
The pasture grew thick and green, the fences straight, the dream solid.
Mijo, look at this place. It feels like a prayer answered.
Cenicienta grazed the old leather pad still on her hoof, a promise kept. On the shelf, where the gray blanket once sat, a state championship trophy caught the morning light. On a wide green pasture, 3 foals galloped in the sun. Chestnut, dark bay, one with a white blaze. Jacob, now a young man, leaned on the fence and smiled, his bare feet finally shod in sturdy boots. Inside the farmhouse, the gray wool blanket hung on a hook, framed by the morning light, a relic of a day that changed everything.
That blanket bought us everything, Mijo. A horse, a future, a family.
Cenicienta grads nearby, her muzzle gray, the old leather pad still secure on her hoof, a promise to the past.
Every time I see that blanket, I remember the night you came home with nothing but a limping horse and a heart too big.
It was Papa's leather and Mama's faith, Cenicienta. They gave us wings.
The sun dipped low, painting the sky in gold and purple as the 3 foals raced across the field. Jacob and Rosa stood together, their shadows long, Cenicienta beside them, a family forged from wool, leather, and love. And, in that quiet moment, the boy who sold his last blanket understood that sometimes the smallest sacrifices build the biggest miracles.